This is Gemara Yevamos Daf Chof Dalit. All learning should be incredible. So for Shem Shal Yisrael and your faith Shmuel ben Tilan of Talzim and Chlas and Chama Basriva, Basheva Figo Bas Shira Chana B'Soishar Chali Yisrael as well as Chashidach for Yechem Mirim Bas Chaya Pasu Yisrael Chaim and Diverse from Living Livizav Ovi Mentali Shema ben Chaya Chaya No Bas Nechama. They should all find the Shidach Chagain Bekarev, and we pick it up on the bottom of Chov Gimel Amid Beis, and we're in the middle of the lengthy discussion in which we have someone who married one of two women. He does not know which one he married, and there's two resulting dinim that we learned in the Mishnah on the top of the Amid. One resulting din, said the Mishnah, is that he has to divorce them. He can't be with either one because he doesn't know which one he's married to, so he has to divorce both. The second din was if he dies and he leaves over a brother, how does Yibam and Chalitza happen? So if it's only one brother, we said he must do Chalitza to both. If it's two brothers and one could do Chalitza first, then the second could do Yibam. And then we basically took that case, that model, and then we transposed it into a case in which it doubled, and then we transposed into a case in which it doubled, that there were two people, there was A and there was B, and A is married, potentially, we're not sure, to two sisters. B is potentially married to, not sure, to two sisters, and A and B either have to both give gain, or if A and B die, and they leave over these two potential wives to two brothers, Shimon and Levi, or B and C, A, B, C, A, B, C. We have two halves of the side over here. We have three people that are brothers, and they're not related to each other, and each one leaves over two potential Suffolk wives, so one of them is dead, so now we have two left. One does Chalitza to the other one, and then the other does Yibam. So says the Gemara, Lezesh Shnayim, Ha-su lamali, three lines to the bottom. Why do we need this? Hainu hach. Again, it's the exact same case, it's just doubling the same case in the Mishnah. Explains the Gemara, you would think that maybe this case that we should make a gzeira, that you're not allowed to do Yibam. Why not? Even after there was a Chalitza done. Why not? Because Chalitza, maybe one will come to do Yibam without Chalitza. Kamash one. An interesting Havamina, and this really points out and brings to light the Havamina from yesterday. We a little bit ran over at the end of the Shir, that the Gemara said we should have a Havamina that maybe in the case of a singular person, if you look up 4 lines, the Gemara said we would have a Havamina that maybe in the case of one brother, he might come to do Yibam, and people are wondering, like, what's the Havamina? It's a different case. One brother, Chalitza. Two brothers, one could do Yibam, one could do Chalitza, and the same thing over here, but that's what the Gemara says, the Havamina. This will be flushed out in a moment. But the Gemara says the Havamina is, Dilma miyabim b'loy Chalitza. They're afraid that maybe one of them will come to Yibam without Chalitza, Kamashlan. That's what we have to say in this case. Asks the Gemara, how is this any different from the following Mishnah? We have 4 brothers, two of them are married to 2 sisters, Umesu, and they die. Hanisuin as achayos, the ones that were married to the sisters are nifter. So then the ones that are left over have to chalitza and cannot do yibam. So says the Gemara, I don't understand why in this case they both have to chalitza, whereas in our Mishnah one did chalitza, one did yibam. Says the Gemara, hachi ashta. Think for a moment. There's no comparison. Some over there as we turn over to Chavdalim and Halif. If you hold Yesh Zika, then there's a connection to both of them, that there's 2 sisters that you're connected to, and then you can't do anything. Whereas in our case, our case is a suffix. Let's not forget, in our case, we don't know which one they were married to. So in our case, once you do chalitza to one, you could do chalitza to the other. And the Mishnah finished and said, if both brothers went and married the sisters, we allow them to stay married. Explains the Gemara 4 lines down, Tani Shila, even if they're both kohanim, we still allow them to stay married. My taima chalutza derabbanani, because the din that chalutza is also to a kohen is a din derabbanan. V'safek chalutza legazi rabbanan. Again, the whole case in the Mishnah is a din and a safek. So safek chalutza We do not make Xer Darabanan. Chalutza Darabanani? Really? Is this whole entity that a Chalutza being usher to a kind of the Din Darabanan? Vatanya, what says in the Brisa, Grusha Inli Ela Grusha V'Chalutza Minayin Tamulaymer Ve'isha. The Pasik, seemingly the Brisa is learning out from a Pasik that a Chalutza is usher to a kind. So how are you suggesting it's only a Din Darabanan? Seemingly we're learning it from the Pasik. Explains the Gemara, Midirabananu, Cross Machta Ba'almahu. To Din Derabanan, the pasuk is an asmachta, it's an illusion, but it doesn't make it a full-fledged Din De'araisa. Now we continue, more and more dinim we're learning with Yibum, as we pick up different dinim throughout the Mishnayos, and now we have another din. Says the Mishnah, mitzvah begadol yabim. There's the mitzvah, we have a bunch of brothers, and one of them is nifter, leaves over his wife, so all the brothers could potentially do yibum or chalitza. Which brother should do it? Says the Mishnah, the gadol. The oldest surviving brother is the one that should do yibum. However, vim kadam hakatan zacha. If the younger brother went and did yibum, he wins. He got the mitzvah of yibum. And it works. So now we're going to learn the hierarchy in Yibam. Who goes first, who goes second, who should go first, the Gadol. If another brother who's not the Gadol goes first, it works. Says the Gemara, Tanu Rabbanan. Where do we know all this from? It says in the Torah, and it should be the Bachar. Mikan, from here, Shemitzvah begadol liyabit. This is where we learn out that the Gadol, the oldest brother, has the mitzvah to do Yibam. And the pasuk continues, Asher Teleid. We actually could take a moment and we could zoom in on the pasuk for a moment. The pasuk says, "V'haya habechar asher telid yokum al shem achav ameitz v'lo yimach shma b'Yisrael." Should be the bechar asher telid. If she could give birth, Yaakov should get up al shem achav ameitz v'lo yimach shma b'Yisrael. So darshins the Gemara. So first of all, v'haya bechar teaches me that who gets to do yibum first? The oldest brother. Asher telid. The pasuk continues. Prat. What does that come to teach me? Lailanis. That comes to exclude that if she is an islandess, if she cannot have children, then there is no Yibum. As we've learned already back from the first Mishnah, there's She'ein Yelades, and the whole point of Yibum, of course, is to be Yakum the shame in order to keep the name of the deceased alive. And if she can't have children, you're not going to do that. Yakum al Shem Achav, and the pasuk continued and said, should succeed the name of the brother, L'nachala. This refers to the fact that they get the nachala, that the one who does a yibum, listen to this, gets the entire estate of the dead brother. A chiddush, that you're going and you're doing a mitzvah satayra, you're marrying your brother's wife. Why are you marrying your brother's wife? So that you get the name of your brother should continue when you have a child, but not only, you get to inherit the entire estate of the brother and the other brothers get nothing. Ask the Gemara 1 second. You're telling me that the pasuk is teaching me that you get inheritance, you get the entire estate of the brother, or you know, shame. Maybe the pasuk is literal. It means for the name. Yosef Karnoi say Yosef. Yochanan Karnoi say Yochanan. It's teaching me that when you have that eventual child, the whole impetus and purpose of Yibum, you should name it after the deceased brother. If the brother's name was Yosef, you name the kid Yosef. If the kid is Yochanan, name him Yochanan. So says the Gemara, well, how do you know it's teaching me a din of Yibum? Explains the Gemara, Nemar Kan Yokum al Shem Echov. Nemar Lalon, it says with regard to Nachlav inheritance al Shem Achayim Yikar B'Nachalasam Ma Shama Amr Ma Shem Amr L'Nachalon L'Nachala. Over there, what's referred to is referring to inheritance. Al Shem Amr Kan L'Nachala. Says the Gemara, no, a Gezir Shava of Shem that we know that the pasuk when it says when it says Al Shem Achiv Ameis, teaches me a din about Nachla. It does not teach me anything. You have to name the kid after the dead brother. It teaches me that you get the inheritance of the entire dead brother's estate. But then the pasuk continues, it says you should not erase his name. They come to exclude that if he was a Sris, if he was one who cannot have a child, then Shmai Machui, his name is blotted out, and therefore there is no din of Yibum. So that is how we learn. Number one, the eldest brother does Yibam. Number two, the one who does Yibam inherits the entire estate. And number three, there's no Yibam if either she is an alienist or if he is not able to have children. Amar Rava comes like Rava and says, he says, Rava, even though in the entire Torah in Mikra Yaitzim Dei Pshutai, a pasuk never goes out of its literal meaning. Says Rava, normally we read a pasuk literally. Normally, how would we read this pasuk? I share Yokum al Shem Achav to teach me you have to give it the name of the brother. Says Rava, here the Gzeir Shava is coming along and removing it from the meaning and telling me that it's talking about the inheritance. Asks the Gemara, Vilav Gzeir Shava Hava Amina Shame Mamish. Rava, you're seemingly teaching me that it's the Gzeir Shava that does this. But if not for the Gzeir Shava, we would think that the word shame is literal. The word shame is literal. That you name it after the child, after the brother. Asks the Gemara, if that were to be true, Leman Kamazir Rachmana. Who would the pasuk be talking to? Liyavam. The pasuk be talking to the Yavam. Yakam al Shem achicha mi ba'ilei. If it's talking to the brother that's right now doing Yibam, and it's saying, beware. After you have a child with this woman, this Yevama, name it after the dead brother. What should the pasuk have said? Not Yakam al Shem Echav. It should have said Achicha, your brother. And Ilabei Dina. And if it's talking to the Bezdin and it's telling the Bezdin, you have a responsibility to ensure that the brother, when the child is born, it's named after him. Yakam al Shem Achayami Ba'ilei. So why does the pasuk say Yakam al Shem Echav? His brother. It doesn't work. Says the Gemara, what do you mean? This is what the Torah means. The Torah says to Bezdin, tell the Yavam to make sure to name it after the brother. Ella, and the Gemara likes that answer. So the Gemara explains that according to Rava, and the Gzeir Shava comes and says, no, that's not what it means, but rather it has to referring to a din of Nachla. So now, once we took care of the first part of the pasuk, explains the Gemara, Hashta da'amrit krabi gadol. Now let's go back. And the first part of this whole drasha, the first part of, we'll say, actually the focal part of our Mishnah, was mitzvah bigadol liyabim. V'haya ha'bachar, teaching me the din of the bachar, of the gadol, to do yibam. Asks the Gemara, Hashta da'amrit krabi gadol ksiv. Now that you told me v'haya ha'bachar is referring to the oldest brother, maybe I should say that only the Bechar could do Yibam Pashat Liyabim. If you have a pasuk, Bechar, teaching me that the Bechar does Yibam, maybe only the Bechar can do Yibam, not Mitzvah Bechar, that it's better, he should be the one to do it, but if the younger brother does it, it's okay. No, maybe only a Bechar, a special din that the Bechar can do Yibam and no one else. Im Kain responds to the Gemara, can't be, because we know there's a din of when Levi is born after Reuven dies, either Levi is born after Shimon does Yibam, or Levi is born before Shimon does Yibam and after Reuven dies. But we see that there's clearly a concept of a brother who's not the Bechar. Levi is clearly not the Bechar, and yet the Torah had to exclude it. So obviously there is a potential Yibam there. So Parich Rav Acha, ask Rav Acha, 1 second, that's not a good raya. Maybe what the pasuk means of each zachav shleib ba'alamai comes to include a bechar from the mother, meaning it's true it's not the bechar from the father. It's true Levi's not the oldest brother, but maybe it's his mother's Bechar, so maybe there's some element of Bechar there, so maybe we fall back to the original question. The Yibam is only by a Bechar. Says Gemara, you can't say that. Yibam menachla talu rachmana, because we know this is the third, the fourth time that we've seen such a concept. Yibam has all to do with nachla, with inheritance, with nachla min ha'av, v'loy min ha'aim, so there would be no hava amina. That Bechar would be by the mother, because we're talking about nachla. Always Yibam is equated to nachla, as we saw a few moments ago from Shem, the Gzeir Shava, and therefore it has to do with the Av and now with the Aim. Ask the Gemara, okay, ve'ema kika b'char this guy mitzvah yibam, kileka b'char lo this guy mitzvah yibam. Maybe what the pasuk means v'haya b'char, that when there's a b'char, then there is a potential mitzvah yibam, and either he, the b'char, could do it, or the younger brother could do it. But maybe in a situation where there is no b'char, in a situation where either the first baby born is not alive, or the first child born is a girl, but maybe in a situation where there's no din of a b'char, there's no din of yibam at all. Amar Kra, says the Torah, that the pasuk refers to when one of them dies. Milo askina de meis b'char, v'amar achmana liyabim katan. We see that even in a case when the b'char is no longer, there still is a din of yibam. So we see that b'char is not necessarily only when the b'char is alive. Ask the Gemara of Eimu de Meis Katan, but maybe the pasuk is referring to when the younger brother dies. How do you know? Vaya Emeis refers to the b'char dying. V'amar achmana liyabim b'char, and the Torah is teaching me specifically this din that the b'char should do yibam. Answers the Gemara, 8 lines in the white lines. Amir achmana ishes achiv shleya b'alamai. No, we know that this guy's ishes achiv shleya b'alamai. So clearly there's the other brother. Says the Gemara, fine. But maybe only in a case where there's no b'char, that's when the younger brother could do yibum. But maybe in a case where the b'char is around, the younger brother cannot do yibum, it does not work. Says the Gemara, Amar Kra, ki yeshu achem yachdav, hokshu yeshivas achem zelazeh. The pasuk says the brothers dwelling together. We equate the yeshivas achem, the existence of the brothers one to another, that they all could potentially do yibum. It's a mitzvah begadol, but they all could do yibum. Ve'ema, the Gemara is not done. Kika b'char li'ader agadol, kileka b'char ein chayzin eitzel gadol. Maybe now we can't finally get to something which has been niggling in the background the whole time. There's always a din of b'char, and from our Mishnah we're learning that there's a din of the oldest brother. We'll call it the gadol. So says the Gemara, 1 second. Ve'ima, perhaps ki'ika b'char lehadra gadol. Maybe when the b'char is alive, that's when the hadra gadol, we go to the oldest one, to the b'char. But kileka b'char, maybe when there's no b'char, then there'll still be yibum, and true, the younger brother could do yibum, but maybe at this point, when the b'char is no longer ein chayzer neitzel gadol, there's no longer a concept of going to the oldest brother that's surviving. But we know that's not true. Alama tani Abaya, what Abaya Kashisha learn? Mitzvah begadol liyabim. The mitzvah is by the oldest one. Lo yiratzav, he doesn't want holchen eitzel. Echav ha'katan lo yiroitin chayzer neitzel gadol kibechar. So we see clearly from this brayso that even when the b'char is no longer, there still is a milo, we'll call it, to have the gadol, the oldest brother, being the one to do yibam. Explains the Gemara, ki b'char, ma b'char b'charas, garmer lo avgadol k'zad l'asai, garmim lo. Just like the b'char, he has a milo, so to the gadol, the fact that he's the oldest gives him that milo. Says the Gemara, 2 lines for the bottom, ve'ima kim yavim b'char lishkal nachla. Now we go to the second din that we learned after the Mishnah. The second din was that the brother that does Yivam inherits the estate of the deceased brother. But ask the Gemara, maybe din number 2 is intrinsically tied to the V'haya HaBechar, the first part of the pasuk. Maybe when there is a Bechar, that's when the second din applies, that there will be a Nachla inherited by the one that does Yivam. But maybe when there's no Bechar, there is no Nachla inherited. Answers the Gemara, Amar Kra, Yakum Hashem Achav. Harikam, the pasuk doesn't say only if the b'char, it says whoever is Yakum Hashem Echav. And this brother, even if it's a younger brother, Lemaisa established in him his brother, and therefore he'll get the inheritance. And therefore, says the Gemara, V'ela, now we go full circle all the way back to the beginning. V'ela b'char, dekai rachmana. So now, after exhausting all avenues, says the Gemara, so now the fact, why did the pasuk label him a b'char? V'haya b'char, what's his maila? L'may ilchasa. What is the halacha that says v'haya b'char? We turn over to Chavdal Amid Beis. Says the Gemara, you know what it teaches me? Ligriusa. It teaches me that it takes away, meaning ma bechar ino noitel baroi kim mechuzak avhai ino noitel kim baroi kim mechuzak. Just as a bechar, when he takes the pishnayim, when he takes the double portion in a regular case of nachla, ino noitel baroi kim mechuzak. The halacha is, he does not take the bachar, he does not take the double from the roi, the prospective properties that will come to the father, only taking bishnayim from what? The mechuzak, that which the father has. So too, the Yavam has a din like a quote-unquote bechar, in that when he takes the bishna, when he takes the extra portion, what does he do? He only takes it in the mechuzak, that which the father is around, but not in the Ra'i. We'll take this Rashi, it's getting late, but let's just learn one Rashi. He does not take the chelik of the Bachar, the double portion, in the possession that's going to come after the death of the father. Now which the father had currently, the day of his death. We learn this out from a pasuk about so to the Yavam, when he takes the double portion in the father's estate, his, where does he get bishnayim? Him and the fact that he inherited the brother, but he only gets in brother's inheritance. He only gets what the brother actually has practically right now, and now that which is roi to him. So says the Gemara, and that's the din of Bahaya Bachar, the din that the Bachar, the Milo, we'll call it as a Bachar, is a Griyusa. It's just like in a regular case of Nachla, what do you get Pishnayim from? Only that which is Mechuzak the father has. So to over here, this Yavam that takes the place of the brother, only get that which the brother has right now, and not that which is Roi to him. Says the Mishnah, Hanitan al Hashivcha. If someone is suspected, if there are rumors, as Rashi says, what is nitan? Someone is chashud, claim of the very last. They said that this person was mizaneh, with whom? Ala shivcha, v'nishtachra. And then what happened? That slave woman was freed, and now she's a regular Jewish girl. Or if someone was suspected to have rumors with a guy, v'niskaira. And look at that. The guy became a Jew. The one that the rumors were said about him is not allowed to marry that person. But if they get married, we don't make them get divorced. If someone is suspected of rumors, if there are rumors about someone with a married woman, and then what happens? Bezdin paskins that this woman was involved in an illicit relationship, that this woman must get divorced from her current husband, then this woman is usher to the man in which there were rumors about, usher labal and usher liboyel. So Bezdin Paskin, she has to get divorced, even if she already married that man, she has to go and get divorced. Says the Gemara, what do we see from the first part of the Mishnah when it says a shivcha shenishtachri v'tzchamis niskariya ha giyayres miya havya? Says the Gemara, but we see that she is a giyaris, even though, why did she become a giyaris? It seems pretty fishy. It sounds like she became a giyaris to be with this man, the man that there were rumors about. So says the Mishnah, after she becomes a giyaris, he is not going to marry her. If he does, we don't make them get divorced. But what does it sound like? It sounds like that someone is magayer for alternative, not good purposes, is still allowed, is still remaining a yid. He asked the Gemara, if someone is megayer to get married to a woman, or a woman is megayer to get married to a man, or if someone is megayer to be part of the king's table for Shema Melech, excuse me, to be part of the king's table stam, why not? If one is a ger because of fear of the lions, one is the ger because of a dreamer. A dreamer tells me he has to be megayer. Mordechai asked her, Einon gerim, she's geir bizman hazeh. They're not gerim until they are megayer in the present time. Says the Gemara, bizman hazeh. No, el'ima ki bizman hazeh. It means with no ulterior motives. So I asked the Gemara, I don't understand. In our Mishnah, it sounds like if someone is megayer for non-good purposes, the geirus works. Geiris works, but here we see from the Nechemia it's not true. Explains the Gemara, Itmar Allah, we learned to that Brayso, Rav Yitzchak bar Shmuel bar Marsa Mishmei de Rav Allah Chidivri Omer Kulam Geirim. We don't baskin like Rav Nechemia. We baskin that in practicality they're all Geirim. Ask the Gemara, Kulam Geirim. Iachi asked the Gemara Lechatchila Nami. If that is true, then why not the lechatchila is he not allowed to marry her if she's a geiris? If we baskin that someone becomes a geiris for ulterior motives, it works. So why is this man in which there are rumors about not allowed to marry her? Explains the Gemara Misham de Ravasi, and now we get to the crux of the din and what the din of the Mishnah was teaching us. The Amar Ravasi Aser Mimcha Akshas Peh Velazis V'Sayim says Ravashi, you should move yourself. Literally, the curving of the mouth and the bending of the lips. You have to distance yourself from people who are talking bad about you. So therefore, if there's a rumor, you're not allowed to act upon that woman simply because of the rumor. Tanarab in become the game the Moisef Mashiach says of Raisa, we're not going to accept Gerim the Moisef Mashiach because everyone's going to know that they're coming Gerim just be part of Klal Yisrael. Amar Rav Elazar, my Kra, we're knows in the pasuk. Hey, Ngor Yagur Efes says the pasuk. One who wishes to convert, let him convert me. Efes me I see. Let him convert without me. Migar itcha lecha yipol aval idach lai. So we see that it can only become a geiris not to be part of Klal Yisrael, just to be part of the Moshe Mashiach, etc. But they have to have good purposes, and that's the end of part 1 of our Mishnah, the din in the geiris. So what was part 2 in the Mishnah? Part 2 in the Mishnah was hanitan al ishes ish. If someone is suspected of being with a certain man, there are rumors, and then Bezdin Paskins, they have to get divorced. That man is not allowed to marry this woman. As we said, Echad Labal, Echad Labayel, the site is usher too. Hanitan al Ishazish says the Gemara Amar Rav Ube'edim, and the din the Mishnah is when there are Edim that testify that this woman was Mezaneh. Bezdin says she has to get divorced from her husband, and she's also forbidden to that man. Amar Rav Sheishes, Amina Kinayim says Rav Sheishes, I say Amina Kinayim the Shalchav Rav Amar Laishmaitza. Rav said this din when he was sleeping. A derogatory statement. Says Rav Sheishes, Rav is saying the din of the Mishnah is only with Edim? No way, it can't be. The Tanya, we learned in a Brayso, it says in the Brayso of someone suspect of rumors with an Ishes Ish, and they have to get divorced. And then she went and married and was divorced. In Konas, if the suspected adulterer, if the man that the rumors were about married them, lo yoitzi, they do not have to get divorced, not like our Mishnah. So Echidami, what is the case of this Brayso? Says the Gemara, if the case where there are Edim, then Kiyasi Edim, says the Gemara, so what's the difference if they marry someone else in the middle? If there were Eidim that they were Mizaneh, we said in the case over here, slightly different than the Mishnah, that in this case she went and she married someone in the middle. But says the Gemara, but if there were Eidim that she originally was Mizaneh, who cares that she married someone else in the middle? Must be there are no Eidim. So what's the obvious implication of the Brayso of Etayim? That the only reason she's allowed to marry the other guy is why? Because why is she allowed to marry the suspected adulterer? Because she married someone in the middle. But if not for that, she would not be allowed to marry the person that there were rumors about, even without Eidim. And you, Rav, are saying that the din of the Mishnah is only when there are Eidim. Again, let's understand, Rav said din of the Mishnah that she's not allowed to go and marry the suspected adulterers when there are Eidim. But we see in this Brayso that if the exact same case happened, and then the woman got divorced, and she married someone else, and then she got divorced, and she went back to the adulterer, said the Brayso they have to get divorced. Explains the Gemara, it has to be a case without Eidim, because if there are Eidim, what would make a difference if she married someone else? It's still forbidden. So we see that when there are Eidim, it says the Gemara that if there were no Eidim, halav achim afkinon. Really, the Brayso is not meduyak. Really, even if someone else did not come, still she's not let it go back. So why did the Brayso say a case where she married someone in the middle? That's what it's teaching me. It's teaching me a chiddush that even though she married someone else, so you would think now the rumor subsided, so maybe she's allowed to now lechatchila go back and marry? Says the Gemara, no, lechatchila, no, yikno, she's still not allowed to marry the suspected adulterer, but even if she did, she would still have to get divorced. We'll pick up from here in the next year.